Hello, dears. I hope you can hear me like this. I don't know what happened. Maybe Zoom is down. I tried every way. I'm sorry. I don't know if I will connect, so I'm recording this. Thank you for inviting me here, and I really hoped for a contribution in the discussion. I can imagine that it's fruitful on all aspects because it's also about solutions. It's also about mindset. And even more, what Victor and Gabi would say, the motivation and self-drive. And I think that universe is happening here in this conference. On my side of the story, I was invited here as someone who volunteered in diverse actions about the pandemic, being one of those in last 1 year ago who were feeling helpless and wanting to do something. I am not a medical doctor, so what I could have done is involved with my competence, and we came across EU versus virus. So feeling every possible role there, and even getting. It wasn't like an organizational hierarchy, but getting on a high enough level to be fruiting this managerial competence and big picture approach and capabilities from my side. So that voluntary aspect was something that I did, and there I met, precious people. Why? Now that I'm thinking about it, is because it was a fight or flight situations, and we decided to fight in our own possible way. And the other thing is that it was very tangible. The mission, for example, of that hackathon, matchathon, and afterwards was to save lives. So very direct, tangible, urgent, and that's why we were all aligned with our individual and collective purposes. That's what we usually say in complexity theory, and that is very important. Otherwise, when you design for profit or for output, you are kind of lost. But here it was very tangible. What is necessary for this, ventilator, for this business model to succeed to market within 5 months or even sooner? So that voluntary side of the story is something that I sustain up to this date, and I hope to continue further on in diverse modalities, every time enjoying and appreciating the specificity of the energy in these cliques, special cliques, where Victor, where Gabi, and my colleagues, co-dreamers from the Academia Diffusion Experiment are. On the other side of the story is this, in December I was struck by this COVID. We had physical exams at the university, and it was hundreds of students in the same place. So not good. So we caught it. Some of us caught it. I caught it very heavily, and actually I was hospitalized after one or something week of coughing and developing symptoms. And but due to prior situations of pulmonary embolism, clotting disorder in my genes, and other conditions, I actually felt that it was not developing good. So I was hospitalized in a public hospital. But there they were doing their maximum. But what can you get, especially here in underdeveloped, let's say, part of Western Balkans, and not so well managed or not so well organized even public hospitals. So you can imagine how many redundant steps I would have suggested there if I was healthy. Then I was only able to lay in the bed and receive some antibiotics, but things worsened, so I had to go to save life in private hospital, in a private clinic. The difference was radical on one side, a lack of human resources, lack of any kind of resources. I wasn't even receiving oxygen there, even though I started to need it with some saturation of 89, 87, 80, below 90, maybe for the week. In this other hospital, I received it immediately. I don't know, those numbers where you of these on these machines. So I don't know how many atmospheres. So this pole was very high, but then gradually throughout the month it was somehow developing in a better way, but not immediately. So I had they had this experimental treatment of blood hemodialysis, hemofiltration, and actually it was 24 hours the first one, and but these things were not improving in my health, and then they told me it's worse, and you actually have to go to another chemofiltration. It's another 24 hours where you lay and you and your blood is out in this robot kind of a machine. They also have heparin there, and they are constantly changing those filters. So I don't know what kind of liquid filters, but a second one was needed. And then, of course, things complicate there, like this kalium went down because of too much heparin, so shocks or whatever. I don't even remember, but I do remember one morning when they said, your kalium was down. We had to give some intervention or whatever, and I don't remember any of it. And then I thought, yes, if I have a death wish, it would be not knowing when death is coming, to have it calmly, to go calmly. Let's say that was a new clarity achieved. Now I'm laughing, but then it was something like that, and. I think that after this second chemofiltration, things maybe started to improve, but it was 2 more weeks, and this constant inability to breathe, constant physiotherapy, where you needed not just the regular oxygen, but this under pressure, where I couldn't. I was coughing all the time. I had heart issues previously, so all these psychological aspects of not knowing what the cure is. Knowing that it's very experimental back then in November 2020, and not knowing whether my family will survive because they also caught it, my parents and my little girl, and not being able there to help them. And the only thing I was looking at was the vision of my daughter, and trying not to leave her without a mom. I'm sorry. But I think that was the purpose to stay. I also had a lot of friends, including some people here who we don't know each other, but I knew that there were a lot of prayers, and the universe did itself. So, but what I would like to say is that it was a struggle, minute by a minute, and I was in the latter part. If someone could have saved my life or other hard-hit lives, it was that hospital, Jean Mitrev Clinic, because they had state-of-the-art, even managerial aspects, even workflows, even informational system where they could see all your developments on a touch screen, and they aligned and reconsolidated and briefed each other constantly, and everybody was servicing those machines so that there is no a second where it's beeping without being serviced, the filters to be changed and everything. So that was a praise for them. And on the other side, all these lives, human lives who came regardless of the age, and these masks who were more or less designed to do a purpose, to I don't know, enable breathing via the nose, or covering the nose and the mouth, or some, I cannot forget those people who unfortunately did not survive before my eyes. One night we were, for example, 8 in that room. 7 died, and it was just coming and going. And I remember the struggles. So it was people with a face mask, but all all on in them, on the head, like in a bubble. And this woman was, whenever she was constantly like sweating underneath it. She was claustrophobic. So they were putting tubes, and she was awake, putting tubes for feeding, because the moment she was taking out the mask, it was her saturation was dropping. But she so desperately wanted to go out. Another one, myself included. So the claustrophobia, these torture devices were somehow, whenever I was putting any mask of those physiotherapy, additional 2-hour masks to be worn, it was a nightmare. I hated it. It was claustrophobic. It was tight on my head and behind, because they had to make sure that this is not leaking any air. So and all the designs were making their effects, probably, but not to the sanity of the people. It was a countermeasure. Even though I could have disciplined myself, it was so hard. And I remember this woman, just a woman and a young man, and just taking it out and feeling so happy for 1 second, because she's up on the air, out of the mask, but then her saturation fell. And the last time she did that, she actually died, because until they came, it fell, and they couldn't rescue her. But that struggle, that claustrophobia, that hardship to be equipped like a robot with something that is suffocating you in a sense of being on your head and restraining you, was very hard. So that is a message for all the designers. I don't know whether it should be some air movement, or whether it should be some monitor where you can see and think of something else, even if you're in the mask or hologram or whatever. But please think of that. Please think that these humans who are not sedated, they are aware when you put that mask on you. You know that you cannot get it out. You know that they're strapping you, and you know you have to breathe, even though you're coughing, or even though you're feeling heavy and hard with that. And it takes weeks, in my case 3 weeks, with that equipment. You just need to discipline and carry on and bear that, motivating yourself with something, motivating yourself with love, with family. But I know that medical personnel need to be very detached, maybe also from all these stories, because otherwise they will be overwhelmed with the pains of the souls of the patients, of course. But maybe technology equipment producers can make a difference, and that would mean inclusion of the patients who have been through and usage of these masks, because they don't need to look fancy. They need to achieve something, achieve the sense of not being restrained, achieve the sense of not having claustrophobia, stuff like that. Okay, so let me just go to the other question. So I hope that this is worthwhile for something. For product development and deployment, that was something that I would suggest. So these, of course, always involve the end user, and that is not new to be told. But also in designing your product, what is to be achieved holistically, not what is to be achieved insert of air. What insert of air in a live, unsedated human being with many other problems in the head and damaged soul at that moment. And when you think of those, you may even introduce a special kind of therapy or a storyline or an app that will show this person, other patients who are wearing it, so that they calm down to see that it's possible, that it's manageable, that people have been through that and they have survived. Even testimonials in a certain language. This is hard. I know about this. So, spoken from a patient perspective even. So that's something that I would suggest. Inclusion of the patient in the specific setting and getting feedback from it. It's not good, but it's necessary to see all the downsides. So problem-based approach to things. Okay, dears, I don't know whether I'm sure that there would be other questions here, but I would like to say, with this inability to Zoom, maybe it's for my country only, I don't know, that I wish success. I wish humanity to overcome this, and I wish for us to learn from it, to see that we have seen with Victor, with Gabi, with the co-dreamers, with the U versus virus, and with many of you who I cannot name all of them, who have done this with the passion to improve life. This passion is the main drive, and everything else is just recipes, tools, and techniques, even managerial approaches on how to make them even more effective. We have the main ingredients. Everything else is, let's see some good practices, let's hear out patients, or what Victor called me when I was telling this story to the colleagues. What did he say? The blah blah blah. The brain, the analytical mind, who was in the ER, in the hospital with COVID. So really, when I started to feel better, I immediately saw all the positivities, negativities, redundant steps. But that meant that I was getting better. Also, this recommendation for easier, cheaper, still effective. So where are the profits? The profits will come if we improve our quality of life. Anyhow, the profits will come in one way or another. Especially the producers. I think in all the calculations there can be lower margin, because once we need this, the technology has to be developed. Once we need this, it needs to be even prompt, and it needs to be accessible. Not everybody will be saved, and not every technology can be mass production immediately, but that intention is alone is very, very, it's substantial. It's how big hearts think. So Robert and colleagues and Gabi and Victor, wishing you all the best. Thank you very much. Hope you get used to use of this. And if I manage to get on Zoom, I will. Thank you. Ciao.